This is the latest Keith Monk's 48 years old company for the original
48
electric.
years.
Yeah, the original electric record cleaning machine, and this is the latest version of it.
Oh, okay, so this is actually a dedicated device just to clean.
To wash, deep clean the record, and then vacuum it dry very, very precisely.
So I don't want to get into too much kind of detail around the comebacks necessarily of vinyl and all that, but it is obviously massive.
Yeah.
And I suppose I don't know whether it's something people neglect, but it's really important, isn't it? The whole cleaning side of things with vinyl, I suppose. Or
Yeah, the side of the records that people don't like so much is the fact that they are, obviously open to the elements. They are prone to contamination, and that is where we come in, basically, and to decontaminate the records, and most importantly, in actual fact, to remove the mold release oils from the pressing stamper that made the record in the first place. That, I think, is probably the most valuable part of record cleaning and the contribution to the sound quality, because clicks and pops, as long as they're not too obtrusive, I don't mind them too much. It kind of like reminds you what you're listening to, but the oils that they use in the pressing stampers are always there. They're always necessary to be able to allow the record to come cleanly off the hot stamper when it's produced in the first place. So that means that your record is already contaminated before it's even been played for the first time.
So once you've cleaned that once, does it need re-cleaning again, or is it a...
Very rarely properly like this, no. I mean, unless you actually soil it somehow, then what you've done
You'd want to do that with
effectively...
every record, then?
You've got that with the oils from the pressing stamper, the flexoplastic that the stamper's just pressed. All of those are present and correct and invisible because they're so small in the groove, but the stylus is still having to track the groove and wade its way through all this sludge and still try and faithfully reproduce the undulations that are inside the groove. So removing a lot of that excess oil means that the stylus can now have a little elbow room, can track the groove more faithfully, and so the sound that all your nice expensive system, right from your stylus and cartridge all the way through to your speakers, is that much purer because you're reproducing pure sound as opposed to noise from dirt. So that's really where we earn our keep. Is we do it a little bit more precisely than everybody else because we do have this little suction.
Yeah, I was going to say, Rod, do you want to come in and just if you can talk us through, if you can kind of take the machine and talk us through the machine, show us what it does.
Lift the bonnet and you can have a look underneath. So what we have here is a medical diaphragm pump from Germany. That's the heart of the system, and that does the suction. Direct drive, high torque turntable motor, belt drive for the suction arm, one that goes across the record vacuuming as it goes, which I'll show you in a minute. The clean fluid goes in here. The used yucky fluid, which as you can see is had quite a lot of interesting use the last few days. That goes in the waste container there. Which has come loose, so let's just tighten that up. It's not going to help the suction particularly if that's loose. The float switch in the middle, because everything's tucked out the way, you can't look at it all the time, but if you forget to empty the waste jar, that makes this buzzer on the top honk at you rather loudly and irritatingly and says, I can't go on, empty me now. So it's an extra safety device, basically.
So is this something you can go through reasonally quickly?
It's about a minute and a half if you've got it. So
that's good.
Go and edit me later. So first of all, you turn the turntable on. This is the washer pump from a 1960s Mini Cooper car that we use for applying the fluid. So just give that a few turns like that, just to immerse the record. And what we're doing is we're using a fine bristle brush to dissolve and dislodge the particles, dissolve the oils, I should say, and dislodge the particles. Release that. Move the suction arm across. This automatically activates the arm drive and the suction pump, which you can hear purring away in the background there. It also tugs on a bit of extra thread at the back. That's then released with the suction comes through to the nozzle tip, and that acts like a cushion. So it basically holds the nozzle off the record, creating an airspace and maximising the suction. And it now travels across the record, somewhat satisfyingly vacuuming as it goes.
I'll be perfectly honest and say I don't, you know, I'm not yet into vinyl. I haven't got back into it yet. I have never seen anything like this. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's
and it's the original one. I mean, this is still done the way that it was nearly half a century ago.
Yeah.
There are other
tried and tested, proven.
Exactly. And it's the only system. Keith Monk's is the only system approved by all the major libraries of the world, including the British Library and the American Library of Congress. So they stick with what they know, and they know that this does it precisely and gives a better effect.
Yeah, doesn't damage anything in the process.
No. I mean, the part of the machine that touches the record is always fresh and uncontaminated. You're using a teaspoon of fluid for each record side, and the part here, the little piece of thread, is constantly being refreshed. So there's no contamination, zero recontamination. Every single record, every time, whether it's the 100th record or the first one. So there's no other system that can guarantee that.
Fantastic.
And here we go. Cliff, cleaner than he's ever been before.
Oh, Cliff Richard! I didn't even look at that it was Cliff Richard. Oh dear. Leave him. Let him be.
Yes.
What would something like this? What would you pay for something like this?
$19.95 is the retail price for the
fluid,
for the machine.
For the $19.95
for the machine
and for the fluid.
Fluid's £35, I think, for a litre. It does about 200-300 LPs. So.
Oh, okay, so quite a lot.
And then we've got this machine, which is a collaboration with an internet company, where we've condensed all of the major parts of this down into a smaller box with all Far Eastern components, so the European ones in here, and sold direct rather than through dealers. So this one is $7.95.
Right. Okay. So it brings the price down a lot.
A little bit louder, not quite the same performance, but easily enough performance to clean your records properly. So
it's fantastic. Thank you for the demonstration.
You're very, very welcome.
Really appreciate it. Cheers.
Absolutely, no problem at all.
Thank you.
Suddenly, since we're now, presumably you're going to edit this other bit out now as well, then I suddenly realised why it was that you suddenly went, oh, about Cliff, because I completely forgot about that story. I was just thinking about him being generally clean living anyway, and he's a saintly man, and I won't have a word said against him, Your Honour. Perfect. All right. I'm going to make it as the end of year mixtape, aren't I? So.
Thanks a lot.
Right. Cheers. Thanks for your time, guys.
Thank you.